Greetings, everyone. This is Louis McElwain, aka Mac, the Fuel Specialist, and I am here today with the fabulous Dr. Jackie Moore, our financial educator, and Dennis Sawyer, our financial coach. And together we make up Fuel. And again, remember that Fuel stands for finance, unity, empowerment, and legacy. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning, Mac, and good morning, Mr. Sawyer.
Good morning to you too and everyone else. Good morning. Great day to be alive.
It certainly is. And I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today because it's kind of a continuation into what we were discussing on last week in reference to compound interest, and it just naturally flowed into this next subject matter. So, we're not going to prolong things, we're just going to get right to it. So, today we're talking about debt management, and I really want you guys to just go into whatever the people out there need to understand about debt management. I know that again, that's such a broad subject. So help us to kind of condense that in ways that we can understand it.
Okay, well, I like starting first. So I want to just start with a personal story because I talked to Dr. Jackie about this. So I'm gonna just lead into something we were talking about. But there was a point when I had 5 credit cards maxed out, and I had a bunch of houses, and my tenants weren't paying, so I had mortgage debt, credit card debt, which means couldn't pay my car payments. So everything was really, really stressful. And the worst part about it is I actually had money. I had money in the bank, and I was worried about spending all my money to take care of my debt, because then once the money is gone, you have no money to take care of your debt. So that's why my credit cards got maxed out, because first when my tenants stopped paying rent, I used the credit cards to keep my mortgages being to be paid. Unfortunately, at that time period, between 2001 and 2000, I say 9 because 8 was really crazy. Between that time period, I was thinking, and this is the way I was taught, that you use credit cards in times of emergency, and then you just, live through it when the emergency is over. And unfortunate for me, I had 7 years of emergency. So it just more credit cards, and I was about to get another credit card when the 7th year came. So now I'm sitting there with all this credit card debt. The mortgage debt still was hanging over my head, but I started losing my I call it my houses, my rental property, excuse me. So I started doing this program I saw in a book I was reading, and I don't want to name the book right now because I can't remember exactly which one, because I was reading a lot of financial books. But it was a debt roll-up program. And that's what I want to lead to Dr. Jackie on, because I started implementing a debt roll-up program. And at first, they don't make a lot of sense, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I was able to get rid of all my credit card debt. Of course, mortgage debt is different, because if you look up the root word of mortgage, it's till death do you part.
Oh, wow.
So the credit card debt is different. So if you find yourself in credit card debt, this debt roll-up program can really help you understand things. And actually, before I say any more about my personal achievement, I'm going to ask Dr. Jackie to explain the debt roll-up program. Is that okay, Dr. Jackie?
That's fine. That's fine. You know, I first wanted to comment on your story, Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
You had 5 credit cards. that were maxed out. Many people are walking around with multiple credit cards, and they may not be maxed. One may be, and they feel that they're in a good position. But it is the point that our society has pushed credit card and credits. And so, my story about credit card, just to let you know the impact of it, is I went to a historically black college, and the year of my graduation, they were the Job Corps, let's say, was so excited for us and offering us things. But in the girls' dorm, the vendors were pots and pans, dishes, and credit cards, and not a job, not a future of making money, but a future of spending. And the idea that they have made it so easy for us in general, but us in particular, because as a culture, we are very good spenders, to get credit, not to get loans so much. We know that if you want to build your future and consider a house, you have a hard time getting a loan. Build your future and start a business, you have a difficulty. But credit, a credit card, they'll figure out a way to do that. So we have to think about that. And it's so easy for us to get and so hard for us to get out of it. And so that story, I want to lead to the fact that you have to start with making a decision to do something about it. I can talk to you about a roll-up plan. I could show you, I could even dump money into you and you can pay off debt. But if you don't make a decision to do something different with your money, then you'll be back in debt. So we're going to start out with that. So you're going to make a decision to not use that credit card, not spend, whatever, as we talk about it. The concept behind roll up is you look at the amount of money that is your balance. You look at the amount of minimum payment that is suggested by the company. You look at the interest rate. And every single person that I've talked to will say, but I always pay more. But that more on several cards is not making a difference. So what happens is you take that more. So let's say that you have a balance of $1,000 and that your minimum is 25. On one of our next times, we're going to figure out a way to put up a whiteboard and let you see what the interest rate is really, how that's impacting your $1,000. But trust me, by the time you finish paying it, it's not 1,000 that you've paid off. But here you go, balance of 1,000. You're paying 25 a month, and you say, I put in a little bit more. But sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 75, sometimes it's 35. Okay. What you do in debt roll up is you take your minimum and you say, you know what, I'm going to add all that up and say I'm going to add $100 to that 25 minimum that they are suggesting. So every month I'm going to pay $125. And you will find that with any other cards you have, you simply pay the minimum. All right. You pay that 125 until you pay that off. And then you roll up not just the 100, but the whole 125 to your next debt. And let's say the balance of that is 2,000. It doesn't even matter what the balance is. It's the concept that you're rolling up the payment each time to the next debt so that you are able to pay it off at a faster rate than if you're sprinkling money here and there. Okay, it's like concentrated cooking. You're going to put in the amount and roll it up to the next bill. So that's the concept of debt roll up. All right. So I think at the last one, but there are probably some new people listening, I asked individuals to look at their bills, to write down the company, the balance, the interest rate, search for the interest rate, and the minimum payment that they are asking you to pay. And then that last column, how much you're really paying so that you can throw in. And that's the money that we're going to roll into and roll up. Okay. So that's the concept. When we throw up a whiteboard, and I'll show you what it looks like. By then, if you have your written document, you can work with me so that you can understand how you can do it for yourself.
Well, I'm sure Mac will have that taken care of by next time. So exactly what Dr. Jackie described was what happened to me. I took all my bills, all my credit cards, and lined them up. I had my mortgages on there, but mortgages are so complicated for debt roll up. So I just did the revolving credit
Mm-hmm.
or your time payments, which was my credit cards. I laid them out, and I realized that, like Dr. Jackie said, some of them I was putting more money on, like my car, and that's a revolving debt too. My car, I was sending them $400 a month, but the bill was less. This was a while ago. I don't know if there are any more $400 car payments, but that was a while ago. But I was sending them more than what they were asking for. But when I started looking at the next month's bill, it seemed like there was something missing. I sent them 400, but only 329 or whatever was applied to the principal. So there's some words we need to understand. We need to understand principle, we need to understand interest, and we need to know the cycle that they charge interest. And
Right.
that is really important. If you pay everything on the first of the month, you're probably going to pay more interest than if you paid everything on the 24th of the month. Just as an example, I'm not going to be specific here, but you have to know the cycle of their interest when they charge you interest. And most times it's at less than 28 days because February only has 28 days. So it would probably be 26 or 25, but you have to check your own paperwork. So I laid everything out. And I didn't want to have a car payment for 4 years. I didn't want to have all this debt, and so I know exactly how much I was spending every month.
Right.
But now I wanted to make sure it was doing the best thing for me. So I lined up on my credit. I think I did it. Yes, I did it by the lowest amount first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept track of my interest rates because
Mm-hmm.
some of my lowest amounts had low interest rates, but my higher amounts had higher interest rates. So I did it by the amounts first. I just started paying all the minimums on everything. And I took the difference because remember, I knew how much I was spending a month. So I dropped everything down to minimum, and whatever was left, I applied to my lowest balance until it was gone.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then I took that extra money. I didn't add any more money to my bill payment plan. That money from when that bill was paid off, I did it to the next and the next. And instead of getting out of debt in 39 payments or 49 payments or whatever the car was, everything got out. I got out of debt really fast, and it was the same amount of money I was spending every month. But now my money was doing better for me, or basically what I like to say is my money was working for me. So, Mac, have you experienced anything like that? Have you done
Oh,
anything?
absolutely. As a younger man, I made all types of financial mistakes. Basically, loading up on credit cards. These were the days when I still was trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and, and carrying around multiple jobs and things of that nature, bringing up a young family. So um, a lot of things, I really, I did everything wrong as far as really using credit cards in the wrong way, not understanding, to, pay those things off within the month and all those kind of concepts. The credit cards really, really became my daddy. to be honest with you. And after a while, you're going to have to pay back daddy. And that's when some of the concepts that you all are sharing now, I had to learn about those things. But again, there's not a lot of information out there that really talks about this on a level where someone who is not a financial professional can really get to it. And so, again, because I started to change um, the group around me, the people that were my centers of influence, and change that from people that were in major debt like me to start to get around people like yourselves that actually understand principles of money and debt management and things of that nature. That's when I started to be able to turn those things around. And so today, while I'm not exactly quite debt free yet, I can definitely report that my circumstances today are almost 100% better than they were just maybe 15 years ago.
Well, can I say something that's going to really sound strange because we don't know how young our audience is. But when I was
Yep.
growing up, my formative years, it was no credit cards. Okay, so my mother's plan for taking care of any unforeseen debts, because without credit cards, you really didn't have any real debt other than your house and your car.
Right.
Or if you did I think Woolworths used to have a Christmas club kind of a debt thing where you put money in and then at Christmas time you take the money out. But there was no need for financial education, which is there's always a need for financial education, but we didn't have the debt vehicles that we have now.
Mm.
I didn't have my first credit card till, like Dr. Jackie said, after college. And no one really knew the damage that credit cards could do to your financial future back then. It was like, oh, I could buy whatever I want right now.
Right.
But as an aside, I've traveled the world and I've been to like Vietnam and China and Taiwan and Thailand and a lot of those Asian countries, not all, because there's a bunch of them. And I found that if you look on the back of anything you buy, or in the collar, or in your purse, or if you open up your car, you look really good, you'll see made in Vietnam, made in Taiwan, made in Thailand. So here I am in these Asian countries. And I had my daughter with me, and we went to a store in Thailand called MBK Mall. And in MBK Mall was all the stuff that we pay so much more for here was 1,000th of the price. Kind of weird to see Michael Jordans for $5-6, and you come over here and they're $200, $300. So that immediately helped me understand what things are all about. Is that middleman. All right. So a credit card is the middleman between what you really have, what you think you have, and your job. Now, most people with jobs get paid every 2 weeks. Some people get paid every week. And that's how we look at our debt control system. Oh, I'm getting paid on Friday. I paid off on Friday. But in the meantime, you got gas, electric, water, and all those things that are conspiring to take more money out of your pocket. So my debt situation was because of lack of knowledge. It was only because there were no credit cards. It was only house, car, and then there was this company called Household Finance. Hope they're out of business by now. I don't know. Because I don't want to push anyone, but that's how things were. My mother's house, Mac, was $17,000. That's the full paid off price. Her car, it was a Maverick, a Ford Maverick, and I think it was like 19,500. $19,500. No, 1900. It was
100. I was going to say,
yeah,
wow.
100. There was
Yeah.
no thousands for
No
anything.
thousands.
But on the same point, people were not making $100,000. When I was growing up, if you had $100,000, you were a millionaire. Now, if you're a millionaire, you're just over broke. So we have to look at our debt situation as much as how does it hurt us, but how can we turn it around to help us, Dr. Jackie? I'm asking you because we've had these conversations millions of times about when we do a personal financial strategy for someone, and we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to get them to understand, like Max said earlier, how we help people change their situation. Hopefully, I didn't mess up your answer, Dr. Jackie.
It's a mindset. I was talking to this gentleman who said, I'm good. I know it all. And I said, do you have an issue with being educated? And he said, no, because again, we find out where our knowledge is Swiss cheese, where we have holes in our understanding,
Yes, yes.
where things have been, I'm going to say created, or presented to us in a way which we may not fully understand. So we've been talking about credit cards, and Mac, you mentioned it, and so did you, Dennis, that initially when credit cards were presented, the idea was that you paid off in a month, that there were no ifs, ands, or buts. What that was doing was actually keeping you out of debt. Because if you couldn't pay it off in a month, you understood that you were in a situation, so people weren't putting things on credit. So think about this now. Dennis was talking about a time when there weren't credit cards, we were just using cash. And then when they created American Express, because you don't hear a lot about it anymore because they changed their policy as well. But American Express, until very recently, you paid off in a month. If not, it was kind of a taxing situation. But all these other cards started coming in and saying, I know what I'll do. I'm going to let Mac have a little bit more time. But in order to have that little bit more time, I'm going to charge him some extra called interest. I'm going to kick it in so that I get this doubling effect going on. So it changed our whole horizon by saying we could have time on pay. And it was pennies or something? A long time ago, this store said, we're going to give you time on it. We'll give you this layaway plan, right? And you can pay on it or give you time to do it. So it sounded like it was a benefit, that they were helping us. Okay. Here's where the education comes. Wrong. They weren't helping us. And so it's the understanding, and it's a mindset that can be changed by adding just tads of information. So the mindset that was presented was that you work hard, you earned it, and I have all this you can spend it on, and I'm giving you time to pay it off. And what we have to do, I'm going back to that other D word, you have to make a decision to take charge and be in control of your money. Because no one is more concerned about your money than you. So if you think the credit card people are more concerned by giving you time, you're wrong. You are the one who needs to be concerned about your money and what you can do. And therefore, that mindset of spending because I just want to has to be, if you had cash, could you do it? Could you afford to purchase all those things? Which is why we talk so much about debt roll up. And again, we'll talk more about interest, because that right there, that and taxes is what's getting us.
Wow.
So
hey, can I share a quick story? I'm not sure whether I've shared this in previous broadcasts, but you guys are hitting on something that's really reminding me about this story when I found myself in a major debt situation um, where uh, the debt was seemingly insurmountable, and if I can, I really want to talk to the people that are looking at us right now or will look at us later, because with all the things that both you and Dennis are sharing, Dr. Jackie, I think that also what we need to be as consumers is also very honest to our creditors or to whomever we owe these debts to. And I hope I'm not jumping too far out of the lane here, but the situation that I wanted to share is that I found myself in a situation where it just I just could not pay back the amount that they were requiring me to pay, which was honestly my debt. And so I picked up the telephone, excuse me, and called my creditor directly, and just basically just laid everything out on the table. And the particular debt that was involved here included something where at that time it was like 14 or 15%, and it was just crushing me.
Mhm.
Um, and so I had this conversation, and I'll say his name. It was a guy named Chuck. I will never forget this conversation with Chuck, because what Chuck had me do, and I'd never done this before, was basically go through an assets and liability process to just finally, for the first time in my life, I actually was forced to list everything that I had as an asset and everything that was a liability, and I could see it. And Chuck could see it, to realize that I really did not have enough money to cover the month. And so, after really, just pleading my case, like I wasn't trying to just not pay my bill, I was trying to find out any kind of solution. Chuck was nice enough, after some processes, to take that 14% and he actually reduced it to 2%,
Mhm.
which for me, actually at that time,
It was huge.
was a difference of like $200 per month. And I'm just saying all this right now, along with the other things that you all are talking about, is sometimes you just need to just pick up the phone and have a conversation with those people that are your creditors, because many times you can even take what seemingly is insurmountable and to be able to reduce it by just being honest.
So and that's a good point, Mac. Many times, if you have been paying something on a regular basis, they will look at your paying history and they will consider reducing your interest rate for a period of time. And every little bit helps. Now, going from 14 to 2 is huge, is huge. But you might be at a place where it's 14 and they drop it to 10. But again, once you really understand the impact of interest, every little breakdown is is a meaningful difference in the amount that you ultimately owe. So yes, you should call. Sometimes every quarter, that's 4 times a year. Sometimes every 6 months, twice a year. But call, and you will hear your friends say, I called and they reduced, and you think, why didn't I do that? So do that. But then you have to then also do the other part on your own, as far as how you're going to pay them back, and that's where the roll up plan comes in.
So
Absolutely. So, I'm
yeah.
sorry. So, to your point, so what happened was, after a period of time, I was actually able to eliminate that debt a lot sooner because at that point I understood the roll up process, and because my income situation had also changed after that conversation, I was able to literally eliminate that in half the time.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to, I know we're getting close to the end. I just wanted to bring up some scary facts or scary issues. Everything that you're paying interest on or time on adds to your debt load. So I'm gonna do a simple calculation. Actually, I want you to do a simple calculation. Let's say you bought $100,000 house, and whatever your mortgage is, I don't care, $900. So you multiply that by 12, and then you find out how much principal you've paid in those 12 months. Multiply that by 10, because a lot of people think houses are assets. So take how much you've actually paid, subtract your principal, subtract how much you got back on taxes for that house, and you'll be unpleasantly surprised at the debt load you're carrying just for $100,000 house. And in the area I live in, all the houses are a little bit more than 100,000, but yet we're all carrying an incremental debt load. I call it the hidden debt. I know there are real estate people, and I'm not talking bad about real estate. It's the number one way of wealth in the United States, but not if you're living in it. Only if you're renting it, or like they say, location, 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 and you got a place that's increasing in value. But I don't care. Take your mortgage times 10. Take what principal you're actually paying, times 12, and then times 10. And then take how much money you got back on your taxes times 10. You add and subtract and multiply whatever you want to do to make you feel comfortable. But when you look at the real numbers, you will see a debt number that's almost insurmountable. In 30 years, you pay for your house 2 or 3 times. It's scary. And the thing about credit cards is it's sneaky, just like mortgages are, and it happens even faster if you're not paying attention. So my whole purpose here, and the reason why I asked Dr. Jackie to talk about the debt management was because I'm in a roll-up program, because the sooner you get out of debt, the sooner you realize what is debt. And I'll be honest with you, I still have a mortgage, and it pisses me off daily, because I'm probably going to pay 3 times what the value of the house is, and I'm trying to figure out a way out of that now. Everything else I paid off. I pay cash for my cars. I pay cash for my shoes. I don't have credit cards. It's a tough way of living, but it's the way I grew up. The mortgage, I'm working on it, because even if you pay your house off, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. So the house is like the only thing you can own or think you own, but you still got to pay yearly on. Crazy, crazy situation that we're in. So all I'm saying is that once you understand this, then you can make better decisions.
Great, great. With that said, I think we are right up on our time here. So I just want to give you guys just an opportunity to share or to close us out in any way that you would like to. And I'll pick on you, Dr. Jackie, to start us off on that process.
Well, thank you, Mac. So I was just thinking about something a friend said. So you think about this for yourself. Do you pay your bills, but when the next statement comes in, it looks like it's the same amount, or you've taken pennies off of that balance? And if so, you could profit from a debt roll-up plan, and I can help you. So contact us. We can make it work.
Wow, that was beautiful, Dr. Jackie.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to say that you should take care of your number one asset. And hopefully by now, I don't know what episode we're on. I'm gonna ask Mac to tell us what episode we're on right now. I think it's 4 or 5.
think
But
so.
anyway, you look at your number one asset, and that is the first thing you pay money towards: the protection and the continuation of your number one asset. And hopefully it's you and not your things or your family. When I say you, I mean family, your church, your family, you. I call that the you. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to wrap this up, and I just want to encourage our audience that if you want to know more about what we're doing here, um, in the closing credits, you'll be able to see how you can reach out to all of us via email. And if you go out to Fuel Next Generation on YouTube, please consider subscribing to our channel. We're just trying to grow something here that will benefit all those who partake in the lessons that we share on a weekly basis. To Dr. Jackie, as always, thank you so much for everything that you bring. To my friend forever, Dennis Sawyer, you are the man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always words of wisdom coming from both of you. And we also want to acknowledge our fourth member who couldn't be with us today, but we know that she's out there doing business somewhere. So to Sonia Williams, uh, we miss you and hope to see you on the next go round. To our Fuel family, have a great weekend, a great rest of the day, and have a great life learning about debt management, the roll up process, and everything else that we share right here. Take care, guys, and we will see you on the next edition of Fuel.
To you.